And welcome into the Rowdy Studios. My name is Bassmasters. That's Buzz Cutler. We have no guests today.
Just us.
Just us. But we're going to tell you, along with a couple of drivers, what the keys are to Sunday's race at Michigan. 400 miles, 2-mile D-shaped oval. The track is very fast, but actually doesn't feel that fast to the drivers, and it's relatively easy to drive.
Yeah, because it's a nice, wide racing groove. The drivers have lots of options. It's one of those tracks that the drivers always talk about loving because they feel like they have control. They can make different choices. They can make adjustments on the track themselves as opposed to all the adjustments having to be mechanical.
Right. Where do you want to drive? How do you want to get into the corner? You can change all those things as a driver. Tony Stewart says searching around for that line and track position. Both pretty important here.
It's a good thing about Michigan. It races really wide, and you can move around and help yourself out.
And that's the thing Tony mentioned in the quote here. Track position has become bigger at this track. It used to be you could get far enough away from the guy you were trying to pass at that whole clean air, dirty air thing. Wasn't such a big deal. But in the last couple races here, you really do need to be towards the front to get your car handling.
Well, yeah, it's a downforce racetrack, and that's what we're seeing from downforce racetracks
Even one
days.
as wide as Michigan.
Even one with as many different options and as wide of a racing groove as Michigan. Absolutely.
So track position, where you start and how you get to the front, making up spots in the pit's going to be very important. And I submit to you, Buzz Cutler, that restarts are going to be very key moments in this race. Number one, that's a great time to pass cars when you got fresh tires. But number two, the track's easy to drive, but it might be hardest to drive when you're on new tires that haven't come up to pressure and all the cars are bunched in together. So I think those are going to be big moments in the race, the restarts.
Yeah, the other thing to think about in terms of Michigan is how slick of a racetrack it is. Carl Edwards said he loves this track, and one of the reasons he loves it is because of his dirt racing background.
Well, it drives like a big dirt track. You know, it's a big, slick, wide racetrack. You slide the car all the way around the corners. I really like Michigan. It's fun.
And this will be the last race on this asphalt at Michigan. So that whole slipping and sliding your car all around, that could change next year with new pavement. That'll be interesting to see. The other thing here you got to talk about is fuel mileage. We've seen that come into play here, and the reason being you get lots of long green flag runs here. Cars don't run out of or don't wreck as much because the drivers have a lot of options. So that could lead to a fuel mileage race.
Which also could lead to a change in terms of the dominance of Ford. This has always been a Ford track.
Yep.
You expect the Fords to do well. Carl Edwards and Matt Kenseth have the best finishing averages, yet the Fords are not getting the fuel mileage that some of the other manufacturers are getting. Will that hurt them in a fuel mileage scenario?
Now, Clint Boyer says if you look at fuel mileage, you'll be calculating that throughout the weekend. The first thing you got to get down is handling. Then you got to think about fuel mileage.
Well, you know, I mean, fuel mileage is a big part of it, but I mean, first and foremost, you got to get there and get to handling on your race car, and once you do that, maybe you can make a long run and get a good fuel mileage reading.
All right, so what do we think as far as drivers here? You talked about how good Ford has been here lately, but Denny Hamlin, the guy who's won 2 out of the last 3 here.
Denny Hamlin has won 2 out of the last 3. The top 3 in terms of finishing average, as I mentioned, Carl Edwards, Matt Kenseth, 1-2. Denny Hamlin is right behind them in third, and then you have some of the usual suspects, Jeff Gordon, Tony Stewart. But are they the same drivers that we've seen in years past? Then comes Greg Biffle, who I don't really expect to make any noise at Michigan, given the season he's had.
I think this is Greg Biffle's last hurrah. I mean, I think he's got to come out here. If he were to win this race, I think he's got a chance now to make the chase if he were to do that. This becomes an absolutely critical weekend.
Notably, this is also not a great track for Jimmy Johnson.
Probably, and this might, I don't know if it's his worst track.
It's certainly among them.
But this is a track where Hendrick Motorsports has never really had the consistency. They've run well here at times, but it's not been a Hendrick track, one of the very few.
Johnson's never won here, and in 19 races has only managed 2 top 5s.
You know, Tony Stewart won here back in the year 2000, the last guy to win in a Pontiac here. And Tony needs a good run. I said earlier this week that this season has not gone how he expected, and the team is not performing at championship level right now. So Tony's another guy to keep your eye on just to see what he can do out there.
Yeah, all right. Well, so who do you like?
I like Carl Edwards on Sunday. I think Carl's got the contract stuff behind him. This is a great track for him, one of his best. Led the points for so long. It just seems to me he's going to pick up another win or 2 this year at least, and this would be a place for him to get it done.
I like Carl Edwards as well. He would be my pick if he wasn't already your pick.
Stole him.
But since he's already your pick, I'm going to say that fuel mileage is going to be Ford's undoing at Michigan, and I'm going to go with Denny Hamlin.
All right, Denny Hamlin versus Carl Edwards and the rest of the field. That's our look at Michigan. We'll be back on Monday or maybe even Sunday night. Who knows?
Who knows?
To tell you what happened.
Rowdy.com. Say it like it is.
Say what like it is?
Rowdy.com.